Oh boy, Elon Musk said some stuff on Twitter, and it looks like everyone, even the president of Ukraine, is involved. The Tesla billionaire had suggestions that would stop the loss of life caused by Russia's war in Ukraine. Musk's suggestions, to some, prioritize peace. So why do hundreds of thousands on Twitter and people in Ukraine see them as pro-Russian? Because Musk's recommendations mirror the Kremlin's rhetoric. He made 4 suggestions, so let's take a look at them. First, he called for an election redo under UN supervision in the 4 areas of eastern Ukraine which were illegally annexed by Russia. Musk said that, of course, Russia leaves those areas if that is the will of the people. And democratic votes are a good idea. The question is, what makes Musk think that Putin would honor the results if those regions voted to stay part of Ukraine? There are many, many examples where the results of democratic votes were not respected by Putin, including in Russia and Ukraine. Putin also dedicated a lot of time in his September 30th annexation speech complaining about how lousy democracy is. Musk's second point, he wants Crimea to go to Russia and refers to Crimea being part of Ukraine as Khrushchev's mistake. He says it historically belonged to Russia, leaving me, and probably a lot of Crimean Tatars, asking, when does history start and stop counting? Crimea used to be part of the Russian Empire, yeah, but in 1991, most Crimeans voted to be part of an independent Ukraine. Crimea is home to a Russian naval base, again, home to the Black Sea Fleet, and there has been a large number of ethnic Russians living there because of this. So support for independence was much lower in Crimea, about 54%, than in the rest of the country, but the referendum was much more legitimate than the fake vote that Putin held in 2014 to justify taking over Crimea. Or last week, in eastern Ukraine, which theoretically led to the annexation of 15% of Ukraine. In 1996, the Crimean Peninsula adopted a new constitution, amending it to reflect the status of a highly autonomous region within Ukraine. And the following year, even Moscow recognized Crimea as Ukrainian by signing the 1997 Friendship Treaty between Ukraine and Russia. Third, Musk also thinks that Ukraine should supply water to Crimea. Ukraine shut down the canal supplying water to Crimea in 2014, soon after Russia's annexation. A 2015 study found that the canal had provided about 85% of the water that Crimea needed before its shutdown. But now it's in Russia's hands, and as an occupier, Russia is obligated to ensure the well-being of the population, which includes water, according to international law. The position of Ukraine has been no water without deoccupation. The water crisis in Crimea doesn't endanger civilians because water resources are enough on the peninsula to meet the local needs. Sending water to Crimea will just help the Russian military base on the peninsula because with water, Russia can cut its expenditures on water provisions and shift that to its military presence in Crimea. Finally, Musk also wants Ukraine to become neutral. So on the one hand, he's saying that the citizens of the East and of Crimea should be allowed maybe to redo referendums and join Russia if they want to, while at the same time forcing Ukrainians into neutrality even if they don't want that. So that's just selective self-determination. Even though Elon Musk does a lot to help Ukraine with his Starlink satellite terminals, the content of his tweet shows how Russian propaganda can sneak up on people. And for people not familiar with the Kremlin's speaking points or international law, these ideas seem to make sense. And I'm not going to say that celebrities should not have opinions. As a political scientist and an explainer, I want to empower people to talk about politics. Just keep in mind, the same areas Musk has mentioned, Crimea and the illegally annexed parts of eastern Ukraine, are places that, if his suggestions are taken seriously, they become permanently part of Russia, and people living there won't be free to talk about politics like Elon Musk does on Twitter.